Hey guys, welcome back to the Homestead. I'm Tony, Sholty Family Homestead, and today we are going to be canning carrots. We actually picked these carrots out of our garden a couple of days ago. Got them all washed up, peeled, re-washed again yesterday, and they've been sitting in the fridge waiting for time to get them in the canner. So that's what we are going to do today. So we have water boiling on the stove. Well, getting ready to boil. And we also have our jars getting warmed up because we're going to be pouring boiling water over the carrots once they're packed in the jars. So you don't want to put hot liquid in a cold jar because hot and cold glass don't really mix, they break. So that's why we're going to be doing that. And then I have everything all set up. I have my canning funnel, my rings, my lids, and we will be pulling the jars out one by one out of the hot water just to make sure they stay hot while we're pouring hot liquid into them. As you can see, I really don't have much space next to the stove. It's only a 12-inch countertop. So we got the stove right here, we got the sink. This really makes it to where I can only do one jar at a time anyway. So we're really going to follow the rules pretty strict, mostly because I don't have space to do multiple jars. But we are going to follow the recipe in Ball's Complete Book of Home Preserving. This is over 400 pages of some pretty awesome recipes. I don't have this one marked up yet, but I have my smaller book, has at least 50, maybe 60 bookmarks in it, so I can quick reference each recipe that I like. We're going to get started. We're going to raw pack according to the instructions in this book. We just like the carrots a little more crisp than a traditional hot pack canned carrot, so let's get started. We have our jars in the canner. It's turned on, not boiling. You want to use hot jars so that we don't break the jar when we pour the hot water in. But we'll stick our funnel in here, and our carrots are quartered up mostly. We did a few that are rounds, but we're just going to pack these in here. These have to be packed into the jars nice and tight, but we're going to leave a 1-inch headspace in here, just over 1 inch, because they will expand while they're in this pressure canner a little bit. So we're going to check it with our handy dandy headspace tool. And that is all the way at the last notch. There's 4 notches here. The last one is 1 inch. So we want to press these down in here pretty good so that they're nice and tight. And we're gonna double check. We can probably fit just a look, maybe 1 or 2 more in here. But what we're doing is leaving enough space for the water to get in here. Because once the water goes in, that needs to be at 1 inch. So we're going to pour some boiling water in here. Put that back on the stove so it stays boiling. I'm going to use the back side of the measuring tool to kind of get in here and make sure there's no air bubbles. Because air bubbles is the last thing we want in our jars, because that's what promotes bad bacteria. And then we want to check and make sure we have 1 inch. I actually have just a little more. We're going to pour just that little bit out. Check it again. I'm right at 1 inch now. So what we need to do is wipe the top down. This just makes sure that there's nothing on the rim that's going to prevent the lid from sealing onto it. So we wipe that down real good, and we're going to grab a lid and just stick it on there. Put our band on. You don't want to over tighten the band. You just want to get it on there finger tight. And then we're going to put it back in the canner and we're going to get another one. We're canning our stuff in pints because I'm really the only one that likes canned carrots. So it's a little better to have us in pints. We can always open another one if we want more or if anybody else wants some. But really, just for me, we only need pint jars. It would be a lot easier for me if we were actually using wide mouth jars, but I don't have any wide mouth pints. All of my wide mouth jars are quarts. So we're just going to use what we have and get them canned up today just to make sure that we're going to be good. We don't want to waste all that hard work of planting them and keeping them weeded because we didn't reserve them when we were supposed to. So we're just going to go back in here and make sure there's no air bubbles anywhere and check the headspace again. Because it's got to have that room to expand. If it doesn't have the room to expand, that's when you get jars breaking in the canner, and that just doesn't end well for anybody. But you also want to make sure that all of the carrots are underwater. So I actually need to take one out of there. We'll wipe off this lid again and we'll get it put into the canner. Out of the carrots that I had, I was actually able to get 10 pints of carrots. I was actually one jar short, so I had to kind of hurry up, warm one up, and get more lids, another band. But I am ready to put this one in the canner as well, but I want to show you what the inside looks like now. Because on this canner, I can actually double stack. So what we're gonna do, I have all these carrots in here. There's 9 jars in there. But on this canner, I can actually, if I remember what I did with it, I can add another rack and double stack my jars in this canner. So we're just gonna put the rack in there like that, and then I'm just gonna put that one right in the middle. One lonely little jar. We are going to put the lid on this, and it's going to go for, I believe it's 25 minutes. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the lid on the canner. There is about 2 inches of water in the bottom of the canner. You really don't want to go much more than that, because the point is to have the steam process the jars, not boiling water. The steam is actually hotter, and that's what gets the low acidity foods at the right temperature. They need to be processed at 240 degrees. So I got a visitor. Why are you hiding? Say hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Now that I got the lid on the canner, we need to let it go on high until steam starts coming out, and then we'll set a timer for 10 minutes. The steam needs to build up. It needs to make sure it's hot enough and there's enough steam in there. So once that happens, we will close the valve. This is actually a T-full pressure canner. This has a selectable dial on it with a 1, 2, and a 3. Each one is for, the 1 is a 5-pound setting, 2 is 10, 3 is 15. We are going to be processing these at 10 pounds for 25 minutes. But we need to make sure that the steam gets built up in there before we close it. It'll build up the pressure, and then once it's at the 10 pounds of pressure, we will set a timer for 25 minutes. It's really important to not walk away from a pressure canner, because depending on the pressure canner that you have, you may need to adjust the heat setting on your stove to make sure that it stays within the pressure. Because if you don't, it could get too hot, it could drop a little bit. This one is pretty foolproof that it will just, I haven't seen it jump above what it's saying or stay below it at all. I know there's been some people that have this specific canner that have had issues building pressure. I have not, but I will show you what's going to happen before we set that 10-minute timer when it gets there. I don't know if you can see the steam coming out. I believe you can. Now we're going to set our timer for 10 minutes. That way we can let the pressure, make sure there's enough steam in there for pressure to build up with. And then once the 10-minute timer goes off, we're going to close that to 10 pounds. And we will set another timer for 25 minutes, and that's how long they'll process. 10-minute timer went off, so I am going to come over here and I'm just going to close this to the number 2. That is our 10-pound pressure rating, and now we have to wait for the pressure to climb all the way up to 10 pounds before we can set the timer for 25 minutes to let them process. Once that's done, we will let the pressure come back down to 0 naturally. We're not going to release the pressure. It just has to do it all on its own. And I will pick this video back up when that has happened. Pressure returned all the way back down to 0 and the safety lock dropped. So we can open the pressure, the vent on the canner now, which is this right here. We're gonna just open it up. We can take the lid off right now. There's still steam in there, but not enough that there's pressure. It looks like everything is still intact, so nothing broke. But we gotta wait about 10 minutes before we can take the jars out of there because they're still too hot. Once we take the jars out, we will put them on a towel for about 12 to 24 hours. Most likely 12, so that we can still have our table. If they're not sealed, we will actually just put them in the fridge and we'll eat them right away. I have never had an issue with jars not sealing. So that's going to be it for this video. If you like the content, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so that you can get notifications when we post new videos. And like always, leave us a comment and we'll see you in the next video.
And this is our table. And this is Hunter. Hunter. Open high. Here we are.